woke up today and went down to the bay to drown all my memories, rinse out my mind, and then lie down among the other empty shells. Lay down on the sand with my thoughts out of hand. Heard the waves break and whispered rushing secrets ashore. Heard the wind at the cliffs singing songs of no return. I'm looking outside of my window right now and I can see the first breath of spring. I can see it, I can feel it, I can smell it, I can hear it. Like probably also I could taste it. I can't even explain to you what that does to my body and soul and how much I missed it. Like I can feel this pure zest for life coming back, and I can just feel how exhausting like these last weeks and months have been for myself. But also not only for myself. I know so many people who can relate. And I love also rainy and gloomy weather, like for a while, but here it just has been like this for weeks and months, like with really this thick layer of clouds always like in the sky and absolutely no sunshine whatsoever. And like after a while it just does something to my soul energetically. I don't know about you. I don't know if you had your first breath of spring already. I know some of you told me that, and yeah. And I also know we only have end of February. The cold will come back eventually. I looked into the weather forecast. I couldn't help myself. But yeah, but right now, I just want to enjoy it as much as possible. I will take myself out on a solo date today because I have a day off. And yeah, like, this week, at the beginning of this week, when the weather started to change, I rode to work on the train and I looked into the faces of the people in the train, and usually there's always like this heavy energy in the air and everybody is looking really stressed out and like, yeah. And this week, everyone was just holding their faces into the sunlight and just the whole atmosphere felt different. And it's incredible how like collectively we suddenly get into this symphony of sunshine and everyone is just kind of tuning in. Not everyone, probably. I mean, lots of people that don't like the sun, but I'm not one of them. I love the sun. And I always had to think of this beautiful Beatles, I think it's a Beatles song. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo. So yeah. Also on the 24th, which was a Tuesday, was my son's 7th birthday. And yeah, I really enjoyed this day. I tried to create like a beautiful birthday for him. But it was also filled with kind of mixed emotions because, yeah, sometimes, I just struggle to recognize my new life because I'm separated, or I've been separated from his dad now for 2 years, and this relationship has just been my life. And I realized I've kind of always been in relationships with people like my whole life. I rarely have been single, like only like for pretty short periods of time. And right now I'm consciously choosing to be single because I want to nurture the relationship with myself and with my internal family, with my inner parts. And I know for myself that I tend to kind of sometimes use romantic relationships to distract myself from that, from really practicing self-relationship. And I don't want to do that anymore. So, and I also want to say, since I just mentioned that I'm a mother, maybe you're watching this and you don't have children because it was your choice, or maybe also because it didn't work out. But I just want to say that having children doesn't mean or doesn't guarantee like feeling less alone or more fulfilled or having more purpose or anything like that. I have friends in their 60s and 70s who are single and have no children and who are some of the most happy and fulfilled people that I know. So fulfillment doesn't depend on the life you construct outside. It depends on your inner family, how you relate to the parts within you, how you nurture your inner family. And that's where fulfillment comes from. Life can be hard, and especially early on when we're vulnerable and experience powerlessness, certain patterns of insecurity can form. And in IFS language, one would say, yeah, certain protective parts develop and certain other parts become exiled. And so we might spend like our lives trying to arrange our outer circumstances in a way like perfectly, our relationships, our career, our environment, in order to feel safe. And yet inside of us there are still those injured parts or overworked protectors, totally exhausted, often in conflict with each other, just trying to be seen and to be heard. And to me, the most important thing we can practice in this lifetime is self-relationship. And by that I mean really trying to unblend from those parts or ego states, especially protectors or wounded ones, and relating to them from your essence, from self. And if you ever meditated or practiced mindfulness, you recognize this state, this compassionate, calm, creative, and curious, especially curious state that simply witnesses and connects. And how often are we trying to outsource our energy, right? Like, for example, when we're trying to fill our cup through, validation from romantic relationships or from our career, just to name a few common examples. There is usually a protective part inside of us that is doing that job. It's trying to keep us safe, of course, but in doing so, it can also keep us from those parts in us that are feeling neglected and rejected. When I relate to my inner family from self, something really shifts internally because I start feeling less isolated, less dissociated, less lonely, even when I'm physically alone. And also, like, if loneliness or a feeling of dissociation or isolation arises, I learned to see it as a part too. And I'm learning, still learning, to unblend that part and to look at it, to ask it to, create a little bit of distance, and to ask it what it needs and how old it is, and just to communicate with it. And for me, realizing that there is this internal family within me and that I can relate to every part from this really grounded essence of self, it has been really deeply healing. And I would even say it's profoundly changing my life right now. It really takes away this feeling of powerlessness. And there's hardly anything that calms my nervous system as much as realizing that there are no bad parts within me, that every part has a good intention. Yeah, so now, before the camera switches off again, because it has switched off several times now because it has gotten so hot, I can't even believe it because the sun is shining on my camera. Yeah, I just want to take you into my day with me and just show you how I practice and nurture self-relationship, and maybe it can inspire you to explore it yourself. And yeah. So I usually start my day with something that makes me feel safe and cozy, and it's a way of letting all my parts know that the nurturing self is present, so they can begin to trust and to soften, to connect, instead of blending and taking over. And this morning I sat down for a little parts meditation, just checking in with what was active inside me. And in a classic meditation, I usually sit and observe whatever arises, sensations, thoughts, emotions. And the practice isn't about pushing anything away, it's about allowing everything to be there without getting entangled. I'm not trying to fix anything, I'm not trying to change anything, I'm simply witnessing. And in parts meditation, there is the same witnessing center, that calm observing self, but instead of just allowing everything to arise and pass, I get relational. So that's the main difference. If there is anxiety, for example, I don't just observe there is anxiety. I ask, which part inside me is anxious? Instead of seeing it as a passing mental event, I see it as a part of me that might be trying to communicate something. So that morning I scanned my body. Where do I feel openness? Where do I feel contraction? Where do I feel agitation? And there was a very clear restless energy in my chest and hands. In a regular meditation, I might have simply stayed with the sensation and let it unfold. But in parts meditation, I gently turned toward it and asked, what are you trying to protect me from? And the answer wasn't a sentence, it was a feeling rather. It was something like, if I stop moving, if I stop checking, if I stop scanning, I might feel empty or alone or groundless. So instead of trying to calm that part down, I stayed with it. Not merging, not blending with it, not pushing it away, but acknowledging it. Almost like saying, I see you, you don't have to carry this alone. And then usually something shifts very subtly. Maybe I don't notice it right away, but a little later. And creativity begins to move again, and a sense of connection returns, like a natural zest for life arises on its own. And I think that's what happens when a part feels safe and begins to separate from the burdens it's been holding for so long. When it discovers there's more to it than fear or protection, there's actually lightness underneath.
Blue sky come bearing up before us, we hang on the hem of your gown. Blue sky come, promise not to leave us, tarry not to our town. There's a darkness in the valley, heavy branches crack and split. If we holler, will you hurry? Can you hear us through the wind? Blue sky calm, dancing in between us. Take us up, lay us down. Blue sky calm, promise not to leave us, tarry not to our town.
So I really enjoyed my day in the mountains. I felt pretty calm and grounded. I would say genuinely happy. But toward the end, I decided to go into this slightly strange cafe, and yeah, almost immediately something shifted. At first, I couldn't even name it, but a part of me started to feel really sad and somehow, alienated in that space. So I decided to leave pretty quickly, because sometimes I'm very sensitive to the atmosphere of a place, especially in more conservative environments here in Germany. I can't even explain it logically, but something in me just tightens, or maybe more accurately, a part of me gets activated. It's probably a protector part, maybe an exile-linked protector that remembers what it felt like to be different and not quite belong, because I've always been a little outside the norm, definitely not your neurotypical teenage girl, let's put it this way. So spaces that feel rigid or narrow can unconsciously remind me of times when I felt excluded or misunderstood. And what I noticed in that cafe was how quickly this part tried to blend with me, and alongside it came another part, a catastrophizing one. That was kind of saying, what if you end up in an environment like this again and you can't get out? And that's actually such a familiar and protective strategy, scanning and forecasting and preparing for threat. And honestly, I didn't just walk out that place and instantly feel free and light again. I really noticed how that sad and dissociated part started to blend more and more with me. And it was subtle, but it was there, like a veil over everything. And suddenly it was harder to access self, harder to feel grounded or spacious. I definitely didn't feel as calm and happy as I had earlier in the mountains. And when I got home, I didn't try to dissect it. I just made things cozy again. Later, when I felt a bit more settled, I tried to gently check in with that part. Just to tell it, I see you, and that actually helped. Not perfectly, it's still a strong blender part, but just enough to feel a little less blended and a little more like myself again. So I just noticed once again that what really feeds my loneliness is the feeling of not belonging and feeling kind of isolated amongst people, or even excluded or ostracized amongst people, even worse. And I don't know, it just, today in this cafe, even though it was just a harmless German cafe, but it just made me think of this scene in Easy Rider where Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper and Jack Nicholson are sitting, and these weird hillbilly guys are making fun of them. I don't know, no one was making fun of me, but it's probably something deeply human, kind of. And on the other hand, when I'm in a cafe, and for example, I have my favorite cafes. I have like my favorite bookstore cafe, for example, which I love to go there because I just feel a sense of belonging there. Or like in Berlin, I have this favorite cafe. If you have a place where you feel a sense of belonging, it's just something so precious. And anyway, I just noticed how hard it is for me to unblend from this part that, it's really, I feel it's a protector part that is linked to an exiled part. And that exiled part is really, really young and really scared, and maybe also carrying some transgenerational epigenetic stuff, memory. But just also recording this and talking about it already helps me, and also noticing that there's a part that is always kind of catastrophizing and kind of imagining worst case scenarios. And that this is a part and a protection strategy. I always kind of just reminding myself of that is already helping. Yeah. And of course, sleep helps because I feel kind of exhausted. So I will just go to bed now. So I woke up today with the following sentence in my head. We've been through so much and we're still standing. And somehow it didn't feel like just a thought. It felt like my parts were speaking to me. And when I looked out of the window, the sun was still shining and the sky was still blue. And I know the cold will return and the clouds will come back, and that's just how seasons work. But the important thing is this: the sun is still there, even when we can't see it. Just like the self, even when it's hidden behind fear or sadness or protective parts doing their job, it's still there. And that's very comforting for me. And I'm also really happy to say that I've started drawing again, something I haven't done in ages, and it feels like a sign that something is shifting, and there's just this sense of unconditional creativity returning, like I'm coming back to myself, not because everything's perfect, but because I'm relating to myself differently. Loneliness often comes from disconnection, not from absence of other people, but from the absence of connection inside. And when I feel connected to my own inner world, when my parts feel seen, when I feel anchored in self, there's companionship there, and that changes everything. So I've noticed that when it gets warmer and you drink water out of a glass like this, it smells like the ocean. You have to try it. And I would like to leave you with a quote out of this fantastic book. I can really recommend it to you so much. No Bad Parts by Richard Schwartz. So it's important to remember that regardless of how blended we are, the self is still there. It never goes away. In ancient times, when there was a solar eclipse and it suddenly got dark because the moon blocked the sun, people would panic, believing the sun had disappeared. And like the sun, the self can become temporarily obscured, but it never disappears. When the moon passes by or clouds dissipate, the sun shines as brightly as ever.